Hello everyone, I'm Lydia Ruth. Welcome to the Manse. And I hope that you in your present circumstances at home are doing as well as you can and have great plans for improvement. I hope that you will click the link in the description box that I put below the video on the channel and go over to my blog where I have embedded this so you can see the pictures that go with it and the links that I have mentioned, or anything else, lists of books or things that I have spoken of while I broadcast to you. And today I'm going to show you my teacup. I like to choose them to go with whatever I'm wearing, and this is one, and I don't tend to get whole sets of the same teacup. I stopped doing that years ago because if I had company, they'd walk around with it, set it down, it looked like everybody else's. So everyone picks out their own cup from the china cabinet, and this one is for my ocean room because it looks kind of like seashell markings on it, and it came from Home Goods. You know, it's kind of a discount store. And then I wanted to talk to you a little bit about, and that's one thing you can do if you're home and you feel isolated and maybe a little bit without any kind of goals or focus on life, is to choose a different cup every day to drink whatever you drink. You don't have to drink tea. And that's a lot of fun. And also I wanted to tell you about this tea. And this is hibiscus with lion's mane. I'll get a picture of that for you. That's why you need to go and watch this on my blog, because it'll be there. And the reason I got this is because I became very concerned about the amount of plastics and petroleum and chemicals in the tea bags. And so I began to research, and I think I can give you a link where you can go watch a lady who did quite a bit of research on some of these teas that have the best bags, and these bags are made of sugar cane. And well, you know, why not? And this is what they look like. And it's fun to get a bag of this tea, different kinds of tea. Someone will send me a letter, put a bag of tea. That's kind of fun. Gets through okay. And I'm not even going to attempt to try to pronounce this, but I wanted you to know about these tea bags. Another thing you can do is you can empty your tea bag into a little strainer, a sieve, or a different kind of bag that is made of non-toxic things. And so I wanted you to know about that. And I hope that you will be patient with me today, children, because I'm going to control your life for about an hour or an hour and a half. Have you ever wanted somebody just to take care of you? And, you know, during the winter, we have 9 months of very bad weather. I'd say bad. It's just weather. I guess there's no bad weather, but we got snowed in, and of course my descendants don't get to come and stay for long periods of time during the winter, and I have no one to boss. And I miss homeschooling and just back and forth learning together, and just reinforcing one another's values and beliefs and edifying, building one another up. So I'm just going to use you today, and I'm going to probably give you more than you need. But I do always say, if you do have some personal motivation and you want to get something done, you can just listen to this, and for an hour or however I speak. And so this is what I am going to speak of today. I hardly know where to start, and I got to thinking today about how we get discouraged and how to keep an even keel. Have you ever known these people that just don't ever seem to, nothing bothers them, and the weather doesn't upset them, and they always have really good motivation? Well, I want to discuss a little bit of that today. I'm going to begin by reading some poetry because I believe that we are poetry deficient. And what poetry does for the brain is it kind of balances and settles the thinking. And it's the same when you have a favorite movie that you watch over and over, and you know what's coming next and you know what happens. It paces you and balances your brain. And sometimes I like to listen to the through the movies my favorite while I work, because I can get through maybe a whole series while I am, and I hardly know that I've cleaned all those drawers. I hardly know that I've done all that. It's just amazing. So I wanted to read some positive poetry to you today from Edgar A. Guest. I do have other things that I like to read, and there was one here that I have read to you often, and I'll read it to you again sometime. But we'll read these in a minute, and I'm going to go ahead with Edgar Guest. And if you have something to do, please do it. And before that, I still need to go back. I know you're tired of me telling you this, but if you haven't bathed and dressed and gotten your hair done and looked in the mirror and checked your attitude yet, then please go and do that and spend a little time on yourself. You know, they used to have, every girl had a little desk with a mirror on it where she could comb her hair in calmness, you know, and take care of herself and check her appearance. And then as time went on, there was a movement to get girls out of the house fast. I have two favorite subjects that are really on my mind lately, and one is keeping your girls home, and your boys too, so they are old enough, till they're old enough and wise enough to go out on their own. Now, just because they reach the age of 18 does not mean that you just turn them loose and let them learn from all the hard knocks of the world. I just don't believe that. I don't see any scriptural reason for it. And so one of the things that we have to do is restore this privilege of sitting in front of a mirror. And notice they sat. They have us, the world has us standing in front of the bathroom mirror and quickly combing our hair, you know, having a quick shower and throwing something on and off you go, and not caring about the little things like the outfit that you're wearing. Where did you get it? Who gave it to you? Why did you pick it? What kind of a thing you were going to when you were thinking of buying this? And what kind of way that you dress according to the mood or the weather or something like that. And I have found that on these days when it gets quite gloomy, and even if you're in a tropical area, you're going to have those overcast days. Those are the days you need to be more careful with your appearance and take some time with it, and teach your girls to sit down and look in the mirror and fix their hair. We were told, you know, as time wore on, we were told, oh, that's just nonsense. It's not anything serious. You need to just get busy at something that's more intellectual. And so people started to neglect themselves or get overly tired, so they didn't have time. And so I wanted to correct that and make sure you do spend some time getting yourself groomed. And also, we were taught to, before you walk away, when you're finished dressing, before you walk away completely to do something else, you look in the mirror at the rear view to see if everything looks nice and that you are wearing modest things and that it's not a distracting sight, and look at what it looks like to someone else. And so there are many aspects to this dressing well, and I believe that the scriptures support it. I see in my first videos that I ever did, I think the first 10 videos was something, I went through the scriptures from Genesis to Revelation and found examples of when clothing was mentioned, and when you were told to wear, when people were told to wear their best, when they were told to be holy, or when they were told to attend something like a wedding, and how important dress was, because not only sends a message to your own brain, but it also edifies other people and sends messages to them. And so you might think you're so isolated and no one's going to see you, but if you're at home, you are going to see you. You are going to feel it. And I'll always remember listening to a documentary by a man who had produced a very famous movie in the 50s, I believe, and it was a historical movie, a period movie, and a drama, and all of the actors and actresses had to wear the costume of the 1800s. And when he wanted them to wear certain socks and certain shoes, and then the women had to wear the petticoats, and the men had to wear certain things, and he included everything that you would not see. And they would say to him, but our viewers aren't going to see these socks. Our viewers aren't going to see this, you know. And he said, yes, but you will know. They said, no one will know we have these on. He says, yes, but you will know, and you will act differently, and you will walk differently, and you will perform differently. So this is the thing. You're home alone, and you think no one sees you, and maybe you're just living in a little, I don't know, I guess you'd call it a dorm or some little place, and you think, well, no one cares and no one sees me. But you will know. No one knows, you know. You will know. So fix yourself up no matter what. And there will be days when that's all you'll end up doing, because it does take a while, and then there'll be something else to do, and you'll think, I didn't do much. But did you bathe and dress? That's something, and that counts. And so let's move on here. I do want to pursue this idea of not letting yourself go. We were told that people would see the young girls in the 50s, and they'd be dressed up because they had a boyfriend that they were hoping to marry, and they knew you didn't have to tell them to look nice or to dress up, because they wanted to have the best impression and also be worthy, you know. So then after they got married, the older women would say, be careful not to let yourself go. Now that you've got your marriage and your home and you're settled, don't let yourself go. Just because you're not dating anymore doesn't mean you settle back and don't wear the pretty clothes you wore when you were first interested in this man. And so that should permeate your life whether you're married or not. And one of the things that I've discovered is that there was a time when you got ready to get married, and you would get your clothing ready for the wedding journey. And you'd have certain things. We used to have even fashion shows in some of our church groups for girls who were going to get married, and show them, you know, what to wear to the beach and what to wear. And they were always modest, but it was just interesting, you know, what to wear on your first dinner out. And they had all these things. And we used to plan wardrobes for daily life at home. You know, what you would wear in the daytime, and what you might wear more towards the evening, and what you might wear to church. And then we'd have drawings of it, and then we would plan it. We'd get little snippets of fabric and paste it on next to the drawings and plan our clothing. It was that important to us. But what has happened to that, I guess, is just the Walmart. Just go and they grab a t-shirt or something and a pair of jeans, and that'll do, you know. However, there's a great deal of apathy, discouragement, and depression that goes on in women's lives, and sometimes they can't put their finger on it. But in the past, people have said that they have gone to others who are having a difficult time and told them, I think you'll feel better if you'll bathe and get dressed. And right away there's a change in the mood and the focus. So, and I used to tell my children too, when they're having a bit of a hard time, you know, halfway through the day, and they'd be a little bit irritable, and I would say, why don't you go take a bath or a shower and put clean clothes on, and we'll just start over. And you can do that too. So don't let yourself go, and that every day you have to live like you are on your wedding journey, and you bring your, you know, nice clothing for your life. And of course, you know, you can wear aprons over it. And they've got these bib aprons that I guess they call pinafores that you can wear over. You can buy them at the Walmart. You can buy them at the Hobby Lobby. You don't even have to make them if you don't want to. And cover and protect those clothes. I got out some of my more sparkly things just to wear because the queen isn't coming, as I always say. And I'm not going to go anywhere, so I'm just going to wear them at home. And I think Mr. S appreciates it. And you know, he gets up, he showers and shaves every day, and puts on clean clothes. I mean, his whole outfit is clean clothes every day, and he has the pants. He likes the crease, you know, down the pants like he used to, pressed, and the button-down shirt, and he wears a gentleman's hat and a nice coat when he goes out, and so it gives you personal dignity and refinement, and those are two things you can work for, especially if you're alone, and especially if you're in a reduced circumstances, or you're snowed in, or you're confined in some way, or you feel confined. Dignity and refinement, and those two things are present in the appearance, in getting the appearance ready. Now, I want to say, don't let yourself go, and in the most dreary times, that's a signal to get extra dressed up. And we used to do that when we were growing up. My mother was very wise, and she was from the prairies in Alberta, and she knew that was a time to put on some savory soup and you know, bake something, and just be special, because it would help to lift our mood during the day when we were enduring these darker days and winters, and even some of the summers. So don't overlook your appearance. And if you hurry all the time, you're not enjoying the small moments of life. So I'm going to start reading you some poetry, and then we'll get back to running your life. And so we're going to start with Edgar Guest, and see if I can find out where I put my markers here. So this is to help you with your contentment in the home. Because after you're dressed, now you're going to have to do a list. Get your tea ready, or your whatever it is you drink, your coffee. Get it ready, sit down, make a list. Ask God to help you fulfill that list. And put the most urgent things first to do. And it settles your mind to be ready that way, instead of as soon as your feet hit the floor, you're running, and you're scatterbrained. You're more scatterbrained. You'll find that things change once you start to plan. And if you will, go to the link. I hope I can remember to post that there on the blog. Go to the link that takes you to When Queens Ride By, and listen to my friend Janine read this, where this woman was picking apples and taking care of her farm while she neglected her house and neglected her children, and she wasn't minding anything, but she was just in a hurry to make some money, you know. And a very fine lady that smelled of lavender stopped by the side of the road because their car had broken down, and her husband was fixing a few things, and came over to the fence to talk to her. And right away, the woman's name was Jenny, and she said she felt resentment right away because this woman looked well kept and rich and everything, and there she was in her hair not fixed, and her shabby clothes, and she was on a ladder up in a tree. Now that can be very romantic if you're doing it for a painter. And I do have some pictures of ladies picking apples from a tree that were done in the 1800s, and the artists always were quite enamored with that pose. And but this woman was just in hard labor with the farm, and it had kind of stolen away her peace and her attractiveness and her appreciation and love for life. And so when she saw this fine lady, she started talking to her, but she felt a resentment right away. And I would like you to go and listen to the story, because I won't finish it for you here. I wanted to read you some poetry. Now this is also going to be a lesson on contentment. And contentment is just, it's not an apathy towards the way you are or what you have or don't have. It's a feeling of well-being, and making the best of things for the moment, but always looking for opportunities for improvement. So here's called The Joyous Gifts. A book to read, an easy chair, a garden when the days are fair, a friend or two life's paths to share, a game to play, a task to do, a goal to strive for and pursue, sweet sleep to last the whole night through, such wisdom as will man be fit to sit with learned sage and wit, discussing life and holy writ, some judgment as to right and wrong, the sense to value mirth and song. With these the humblest man is strong. With these the humblest man can find his path with countless pleasure lined, contentment, pride, and peace of mind. And so there you have a picture of someone sitting reading a book with a bit of sun coming over her shoulders and her shawl by her side. And there are plenty of, I used to post a lot of paintings by Edmund B. Layton and other painters that I liked that put women in these scenes, these domestic scenes that might have been quite common at the time that you don't see anymore, because women have left the home to go and do, quote, things more important, but that have rushed them and created all kinds of health problems. So be careful to guard your life at home. And here's the problem. If you start to resent it, if you start complaining that it's not as good as you had planned, yes, we're allowed to cry. Have a good cry. Cries are really good for you because you start looking at your life and you think, this is not how I wanted it to be. And if you start crying, you rid your body of a lot of toxins, and then you rise up from that feeling a great peace. And my mother, I told you I grew up on a homestead in Alaska where we lived in a log house, and it was difficult. It was hard. And the way that I know that it was hard is because we knew luxury when we saw it. And we knew the difference between the roughness and the crudeness and the rusticness and a soft blanket and a nice teacup. We knew all that. We're always attracted to the more refined things. And she said that it had been a very hard winter, and she mentioned several things that had happened. My father had to be away at work, somewhere away. A lot of the men had to find work in the winter, which caused them to have to be away. And then that was the year there had been a bear come down the road, and she'd had to scare it away, and she was also pregnant. And she said, and your father hadn't been home in a while, and she said, I went outside and I cried. I leaned up against a tree and I cried and cried and cried till there was no water left in my eyes to shed. There was nothing left in me to cry. And she said, after that, a wonderful feeling of peace came over me. So some of you just need to have a cry, and then you can focus better. And I'm sure everyone has been there. And I wanted to mention too that so you now that you have got yourself ready and you've made your list, it's really important to do a few stretches. And I'll maybe leave a link for you so you can practice. Some of them you can just sit in your chair and do. And what they do for you is they balance the brain and they help you to focus. Just little tiny turns and shaking the hand and moving the shoulders, nothing that is too strenuous, that will change the way that you focus on things, the way you feel about things. And when you go out to a job, you go out there and your life is regulated for you by the company, by the employer, and everything. So you don't have time to think about any of these things. And there's no emotion in it because they just have you going from one thing to another, often have loud music in the place. Then you get in the car and come home and listen to the roar of the traffic. And you come home and it's a totally different life. And especially if you have been out at a job, when you come home, there's going to be an adjustment. You're going to have to be self-regulated and self-controlled now. You're going to hear the silence. You're going to hear, there might even be some days, we used to call it, what did we used to call it? We used to call that creepy house feeling. And then I read some of the Eric Sloan books to you on the weather and how what it makes the house sound like and what it makes the nerves and the mood sound like, and even your health. You might want to get a hold of some of those and just study out some. I'm homeschooling you kids today. And so I'm just unlocking the mystery of homeschooling. Many of you wondered what it is and why anyone would want to do it. Well, when you listen to me, you're being homeschooled, because this is what we would discuss in our home. And it's just making, learning about life and making the best of it, and learning to regulate yourself. And so I want to read a little bit here, because it's going to take some courage. Isn't there a scripture that says, have courage and I will give you strength? We've got to put forth, we've got to muster the courage to do our best with our own selves and with our houses, to do our best at home, and then we'll have the power to do it. Then we'll have the strength to do it. I will read to you some more about from my notes. And scriptures certainly promote the fact that we need to be on a course of self-improvement. One of the first things that we did back in the day when I was still a teenager, I attended a class in a church that was led by a lady that wanted to help the young single women learn more about homemaking in the home. And she had a list that she was teaching us, and one of them was to embark on a course of self-improvement. So she had us list all the areas we would like to be better in. You know, did we need to lose weight? Did we want to, things we wanted to do? Did we want to learn to speak more clearly? Did we want to be more patient? And she had us list all these areas that we wanted to improve. And then she had a course on how to overcome some of these things and how to promote an improvement and develop fruits of the Spirit, how to redeem the time, how to rescue your time from worthless waste, how to get things done, how to schedule yourself in the home so that you can get things done but be flexible to the needs of others, to pause when you needed to pause and then pick up where you left off, things like that, that you should be learning at the elbow of your mother, but maybe people weren't able to, maybe their mothers went to work. And I'm telling you, sending your girls to a college or a job does not actually teach you how to regulate yourself in the home. You start getting regulated by other people. So when you're home, you just kind of sack out there, and it's not as important to you. And so I think that it's very important to enjoy the home in a different way. Develop the fruits of the Spirit, redeem the time, rescue it from useless waste, and put it towards a way that could be better spent. Another thing is to find interesting things to do. Housework can be very uninteresting, and you can make it more interesting. And so I wanted to read this little poem here on courage for you. This is courage, to remain brave and patient under pain. Cool and calm and firm to stay in the presence of dismay. Not to flinch when foes attack, even though you're beaten back. Still to cling to what is right when the wrong possesses might. This is courage, to be true to the best men see in you. To remember, a tempest tossed, not to whimper, all is lost, but to battle to the end while you still have strength to spend. Not to cry that hope is gone while you've life left to carry on. This is courage, to endure hurt and loss you cannot cure, patiently and undismayed, facing life still unafraid. Glad to live and glad to take bravely for your children's sake, burdens they would have to bear if you fled and ceased to care. That is so interesting. You know, I have the word endure here somewhere on my notes, and one of the meanings of it is come from the word durable. If you had a table and you put something on it and it sagged, that's not a very durable table. If you have to put a burden of books on something and it collapses, that's not durable. So as we have our burdens, and we need to be durable to endure them. And remember what durable means. So find interesting things to do at home and make it a point to correct your bad habits and improve your health. And you can make a little, I guess, curriculum for yourself, a little schedule for yourself like you were in a school. And you go find all the videos and materials that you need to learn to do something. Or to learn, how to improve your health. You can go on YouTube, and there are a lot of free things there, which I find a great deal beneficial. And you can find good health videos, posture videos, you can find speech, you can find art, and make a list for yourself. And then after you've done your essential preparation and your housework, and if you don't feel you have anything else to do, you get started on that plan and go and do one of those things every day. And correct your bad habits, improve your health and your weight, and you can find exercise videos. You can just make a whole list, and you could be busy all day long giving yourself assignments if you're alone and you have no children. At the same time, some of these things your children need to see you doing so that they can repeat it when they are in hard times, and how grateful they will be someday to know these things. Now I want to read to you a little bit about hope. This is such a cute poem, and Mr. S, he's got this wry sense of humor, and whenever we reach zero at the end of the month as far as money and gasoline and stuff, and it's the end of the month and there's not going to be anything for a while, he'll say, life is actually more exciting when all hope fails. He says, when you don't have any hope, you have more fun, he said. I don't know why he thinks that, but he always tells people, laugh at that, but I guess he's trying to cheer us up. Okay, so the choice. As one man said, all hope is dead, and I wish that I were too. I'm going to have to interrupt this poem to tell you a funny story. I could never go on LibriVox because I'd have to stop and comment. I make it a commentary. Okay. Let me just see what's going on here. When we were young, I was the oldest of 7 children. 9 people in the family, 7 children, and I was the oldest. And we had 3 older and 4 younger. And there was a gap between those 2 sets of ages. And we older ones were always, we lived a hard life, and we would say we were going to leave home. Or if we got really depressed, we would say, I guess I'm just going to die. I just feel like I'm dying. And of course, we wanted everyone to be sorry and everything. And I know I'm not really making fun of any serious illness over this, but I just wanted to tell you what happened back in the 50s, okay? So the younger ones would crowd around us and say, oh, can I have your bike? Can I have your bed? And can I have all your stuff? And it used to make me so mad because they didn't earn on any of that stuff. So now, if I think, well, maybe I should just kind of walk off and not come back, and then I wouldn't have all this work to do. Well, I just know that those same relatives would descend on me and take all my teacups, take all my fabric, take all my books. And I thought, no, I'm not going to let them do that. So I thought you'd get a big kick out of that story, and maybe you can have a memory that that's what people used to do, isn't it? So here's this poem, The Choice. And one man said, all hope is dead, and I wish that I were too. For rough is the way, and the skies are gray, and I can't get work to do. I've lost the things which I thought were mine, and it's now no use for the sun to shine. In similar straits, betrayed by the fates and stripped of its worldly gear, another man said, Well, I'm far from dead, and I don't want to die this year. There's a lot proved false which I thought was true, but I want to be here when the sun breaks through. You know, they say behind every cloud is a silver lining. Well, we know that behind all that fog and mist and cloud that we have here, and all that snow, the sun is shining. All men must choose of these opposite views, and it's easy enough to fail. If you're willing to quit, you can argue for it with a truly deplorable tale. But always the difficult thing to do is to stick to a problem and see it through. Isn't that interesting? And many of these things I wish I'd been taught from youth. I was not homeschooled, but I did homeschool, and I found many things that helped us in life. And as a matter of fact, I felt like I had been homeschooled because the children and I learned together, and so in a way we grew up together. And I love this one. It's called Keep Your Dreams. Keep your dreams, they're richer far than the facts discovered are. Do not seek all things to touch, do not want to know too much. Growing old, still play the child, keep some glory undefiled. What if the clouds are mist and air? Still see ships sailing there. What would life be if we knew only those things which are true? If the things of bad and good were all by men understood, nature's hills and brooks and springs would be a catalogue as things. Keep your dreams, for in them lies joy denied to men grown wise. Still build castles in the air, still see white ships sailing there, still have something to pursue, something which you wish you knew. And that reminds me of how our mother, took time to take us outside and show us the clouds and help us to see the shapes in the clouds. And they were always Bible things. Like we saw Moses crossing the sea, and we saw the cloud that led the children of Israel by day. And we saw Jonah and the whale, and we saw David and Goliath. Of course, we grew up on these stories from the scriptures, and so she taught us to lay down and look at the clouds. And so we are rushed so through life, we ladies, that we are started to put our eyes on goals and accomplishments that cause us to forget about these little things and forget about the small things that were in our childhood. And it's okay. You know, we learn things in our childhood because they stabilize and buffer us, the pleasant things, the things that we remember. And I've heard people say they don't want any toys in their house. Well, I kept my toys and my children's toys because I like them, and they make me feel good, of a carefree nature. So now I'm going to read a poem called The Brighter Side. These are all by Edgar A. Guest, and after a while I'll read some by somebody else. Though life has its trouble and life has its care, and often its dark days of sorrow, there is always the hope that the sky will be fair and the heart will be happy tomorrow. If we could just encourage people to know that nothing ever stays the same. You're not going to stay in the same low mood. Your house is not going to stay exactly in the same disarray. Things will improve. And so these are just moments, that can pass. And the heart will be happy tomorrow. Though life has its trouble and life has its care, and often its dark days of sorrow, there is always the hope that the sky will be fair and the heart will be happy tomorrow. There is always the light of a goal just ahead, a glimpse of the dream we're pursuing. In spite of the difficult pathway we tread, there is much good to be doing. Time empties the purse of the pennies of youth, the heart of its innocent laughter, but gives in return just a few grains of truth and the promise of more to come after. There's never a new day lived out to the end, however life's tempest may pitch us, but that with a triumph, a joy, or a friend, the swift fleeting hours may enrich us. There's so much to do and there's so much to see, in spite of the troubles that fret us, so much to wait for, so much to be, if only the future will let us. That life with its burdens and life with its tears and its heart-burning touches of sadness still lures us all into the end of our years with its friendship, its love, and its gladness. And that reminds me that there was a little poem that there's so much in life to do, we won't have time to do it all. There's so much to learn and to do. So now I want to talk to you a little bit more. If you've got something to do, you need to go do it. So we've covered being dressed and being ready and how that gives you dignity and refinement. And if you live in a humble place, and I know many people around this area that do, if you dress up and you do something to look dignified and refined, and you have to go out and get groceries or go to the library or go to the post office, no one is going to know. They will think that you're from some high-end area if you dress well, and if you stand well, and if you speak well, if you have that refinement. Take a course in refinement. Find books and things that teach about being refined in speech and manner, in movement, and I will take you through a course that I took when I was younger. I can't find my notes, but I've got a lot of it in my mind that I could show you. And I did show you a few things one time when I was showing you how to take a coat off and on. Those things don't matter, but they add a little dimension to your life and make you feel a little bit richer if you have reduced circumstances. Manners, if you have your manners and your creativity and your good speaking manners, and you have creativity, you have everything. Because even if you be not highly educated or wealthy, you have something that gives you dignity and refinement, and you could live in the humblest place, and people would never guess. They would think you were on a vacation and this was your summer home. And I often think about that, pretending that this is my summer home. And other things too. I've had so much fun with this little place, and it's about as wide, I think, as a double wide, what they call a double wide. You remember Queen of my double wide? And but I've had so much fun with it. And one time when the children were coming, grandchildren were coming, I sent before they came, I sent them an invitation to a train trip. And I turned all the rooms into train cabin, what are they called? Roomettes or whatever. And all the rooms were decorated with trains and things. And I even had train whistles that I gave them. And they ate in the dining car. There was the dining car and the lounge car. We had activities in the lounge car. We had a little play. We had music. We had, that we produced. And we had food that you would eat, and then we would stop, and we had an itinerary, so you could stop, like at 1 o'clock we're going to stop at this park or this village. So we'd go outside, and we were still here, but they liked it so much. And even the older ones, the teenage boys came, and the ticket to get in was the invitation that I sent. And the boys didn't bring theirs. So I said, well, you'll have to eat in the galley. So they had to eat in the kitchen. We knew that we were all just, playing, but they wanted to play this. They just wanted to see what it would be like. And so they played this game with me, and I heard one of them get on their phone and call their father and say, hey, Dad, could you find that invitation that Mima sent and bring it? Because it was my ticket, and I can't eat in the dining room. I have to eat in the galley. So they were eating in the kitchen. And but the memories, and it was so beautiful. And then another time they came, I had turned it into an inn, and I've had it into several different things. And I had an ocean cruise liner, and we would look up recipes. Like when we were on the train, we looked up all the recipes from the Royal Scotsman, that train trip you can take in Scotland, and we tried to do them. We found them, and we tried to eat like that. And then we had our activities And oh, we just had a wonderful time. But I digress because what I'm trying to do is show you that you can play house, that you can have fun. This is why we had our girls and boys play house. Is just the sound of the clanging of the little pots and pans, and then the drying the dishes and putting them away. Good for your mind, good for your brain. As a matter of fact, I still have that child's kitchen sitting over there because I like it. I like to look at it. Why should I put it away? And I like the little dishes and the little stainless steel pots and pans, and I like all that fake food too. And so you can do so much with your place. Even if you're in reduced circumstances, you can even turn it into a literary center. Start burying yourself in literature. Our Mutual Friend and Wives and Daughters, and trying to think, and other things by some of the, and if you could just get the videos from the library. This is Wives and Daughters. And if you are in a circumstance where you can't do much, and you've done, your housework is minimal, maybe you're in a real small place, you could spend, if I could do this, I'd be thrilled, but you could spend your afternoons burying yourself in these kinds of videos and all the Jane Austen videos, and almost learn the scripts by heart and start over when you're finished. Get about 12 of these historical period style stories by Jane Austen, Elizabeth Gaskell, and others, Charles Dickens and others, and just bury yourself in them. And they do balance your brain. They just really help you. And also, if you have girls at home, they really need to learn to do a lot of these things. Now, one of the things we fight as homemakers is discouragement. You're pretty much working for yourself, and so you're not regulated by anybody. And we are from a nation that it practically got into such a problem because everybody was incarcerating themselves or institutionalizing themselves, and they and so coming home now, you have to adjust and redeem the time, spend the time properly, and make a proper self motivation and self-control. So to fight discouragement, I ran across a scripture years ago that I just mulled over. It was from the Old Testament, and it was, "If the footmen have wearied thee, how shall we contend with horses?" Now, to me, and I thought about that and thought about that, if the little things, if the little problems, of course we think they're big, don't we? But if the problems you have now knock you over, then how will you be able to fight off the bigger ones? So start by applying, I guess, Galatians 5, 23, 24, and 25. The fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, goodness, kindness. Against such there is no law. And think about that and apply goodness. Philippians 4:8, whatever is true, lovely, pure, and of good report. Think on these things. Start applying these to make discouragement a trigger to apply something good to your home. Do something good in your home. If you get a little feeling of discouragement or any kind of resentment or anything like that, you'll tell yourself, okay, just for that, I'm going to clean my sink and put a little lead light tea light over there, that's pretty. Or I am going to go and redo my hair just for that. I'm going to have a cup of tea in a fancy teacup just for that discouraging thought. And so this is another one here I wanted to quote to you, and it's, "If the trumpet gives an uncertain sound, who will follow?" Now, let's say you have a place, even if it's just we used to call them caravans, I'll tell you about the caravan park sometime, even if that's all you have. If you are not determined to do your very best in that, and you just sort of like, well, I don't know what to do and everything, that's an uncertain sound. That's a lack of focus and determination. And it's not good for your brain. It's not good for you. if the trumpet gives an uncertain sound, who shall follow? How can you be a good influence? And what is this I wrote down? The 3 things that I thought we should try is to be a good influence, be an example, and be a good steward. Now, a steward is someone who takes care of his master's things. Be a good steward of whatever it is you have. And I'll tell you some stories about some of the people I knew that did this that amazed me. So be a good influence. Influence is like salt. It's you leave a little memory of something you did, or something to do with your home. And they will dwell on it. People will dwell on it, and it will cause them to think about it, maybe imitate it or emulate it. Be a good influence. Be a good example. You know, maybe we're not great at teaching. Maybe we're not great at talking about anything, or even learning something. We can be a good example, and be a good steward. Take care of what you have, even if it's just a little. And remember, there was the scripture that said, he who is faithful in little will be faithful in much. You'll find over time you're going to have more than you bargained for. If you're faithful in a little, you'll find that these things increase after a while, that you get more responsibility. And then also, what about that scripture that says, he who puts his hand to the plow and then looks back is an unworthy servant? That's like when my father had a ship, a boat, and if he wanted one of us to take the steering wheel, we could, but you couldn't, you would look back to make sure that the stream was, following in the straight line, but you had to be careful you didn't look around or anything like that, because then it would just veer off and hit the bank. And so he who puts his hand to the plow and then looks back, well, you start looking back and longing for more comfort, or from the way life used to be, maybe, or that people were different, or that things had turned out different. You've got to plow ahead. But when you start looking back, I think you would plow a pretty crooked row. We used to have a saying, and that was when people in certain circumstances, if they allow themselves to get apathetic or lazy or resentful, they have a hard row to hoe. Remember that? And you can look up some of these sayings and restore them, because they give life more depth and meaning. Now remember, there was when you want to correct your thoughts, because your thoughts are going to control your motivation. You want to correct your thoughts, and let's say you're besieged with feelings of defeat, or someone else is discouraging you. There was a poem, and the first 2 lines were, patiently, thought by thought, old habits are untaught. And that's how I say, whenever there's a discouraging thought, you need to substitute one of these good things, like goodness, kindness, love, joy, peace, and it was the Philippians 4:8, whatever's good, lovely, pure, and of good report. Think on these things, and to retrain your thinking every time a terrorizing thought comes to you, or a depressing thought comes to you. So I think I've covered that. So make plans to correct your habits and improve your health, and think beautiful thoughts. And in poor circumstances, go the second mile. You know what the second mile was, and I think I've explained it to you before. And it was the fact that the disciples thought that Jesus was coming to get rid of the Roman soldiers that were so notorious about taking people from the side of the road and making them carry something. But there was a law. There was actually a law that said, and it wasn't like a religious law or anything, but there's a law that said they could get any citizen to carry something, but they could only allow them to go 1 mile. And then they'd find somebody else to carry stuff. But so when they said, well, have you come, to set up a new kingdom and get rid of the Roman kingdom. And he said, when someone asks you to go 1 mile, go with him 2. And what this does is it does several things. It's a great influence and an opportunity to do better, to teach, and to learn to be more cheerful with a burden. So let's say that you're staring at that kitchen sink, and you know, Fly Lady, we used to be sidetracked home executives. Fly Lady had a rule that the first thing you did after you got ready, when you get up, you get dressed, you bathe, you get dressed, you put on shoes. She always said put on shoes, and fill your sink up with hot soapy water, you know, and then she said the first thing you do is clean your sink, and before you go to bed, clean your sink. And so you'll find yourself maybe shining the faucets, maybe putting things away, not leaving watermarks all over everything. You'll find yourself being neater and cleaner when you go the second mile, and then you're happier with your home. If you go the second mile with everything, if you don't, you know, you can you clean things. Anybody can, in a rush, do what they call stress cleaning, clean it up and look like they've been there all day. But when you're home all day and you do it thoughtfully, it has a totally different look, a totally different atmosphere, and it does a totally different thing to your brain. So go the second mile, especially in reduced circumstances. And I remember once we had to live in a tent when I was growing up because my parents were building a house, and there was strict. My father had been in the military, of course, and you didn't just make a mess in there. You had to shake out your sleeping bag and your blankets and everything, and air out your pillow, and then you rolled it all back up and put it in, and we swept the tent, and we had to keep our possessions in our own boxes, and you couldn't just let things just lay around in there because they knew that it would have an impression and an impact on our emotions. And that's why it's so important to do the best you can to have a lovely home. So in circumstances that are reduced, especially go the second mile, and have the attitude of you're going to show the rest of us how to do it. And when I first began homeschooling, I wasn't impressed at all. I wanted to homeschool my children, but I didn't like what I saw. I thought many of the children weren't well behaved, and maybe I didn't feel they were being educated as well as I wanted my kids to do. So I decided I was going to be my own example. I was going to lead myself, and I was going to show everybody else how to do it. And I used to, when I was younger too, want Titus 2 in the church. I wanted the older women to have classes for the younger women, teach them to be homemakers and mothers and wives, and they were all going out to get jobs about the time I was ready for one of those classes as the late 50s, early 60s hit. So I'd listen to the younger women complain about it. You know, that's not right. They shouldn't be out working and all that. And I said to myself, okay, I'm just going to have to be the teacher. I'm going to have to show them how to do it. So I started when I was really young, taking notes about this and then trying to live it myself, because being really young, nobody wanted me to, you know, teach or tell them what to do. So I thought, well, I'll just do it myself, and then they can see what I do. And so you need to show us how to do it. If you're living in reduced circumstances, you show us how to do it. And there are plenty of videos now you can see where people are cheerfully, well, maybe not always cheerfully, but showing how it's done, and how they fight the discouragement. And so one of the biggest discouragements is the older women going out to work. That's a big discouragement because they're not helping the example and encouragement. We always were alone as homemakers, but we knew that there was another lady on another property. She was home too, so we knew we had this common ground. And it's kind of comforting even if we didn't see them. And but when you know that they've all left, and even if you're living in the caravan park, I lived in a caravan park for a while, but their caravans are all dark all day long, and they worked all day in jobs, and then they came home. And so the few homemakers that were there didn't have that light. And you remember the Proverbs 31 woman, her light does not go out at night. Well, they had to light their little oil lamps, and they set them at the windows to indicate that the place was occupied, and it kept people from coming in and thieving the place. And it was also a great comfort to know, that their light was there. So, yes, be a light and show people how it's done. And so for Titus 2, where it says keepers at home, it says keepers at home, not keepers of the home. It says keepers at home. So, anybody could keep a house. Anybody could clean house or take care of it or make it comfortable. Maybe a couple of hours, come in and do it, and the rest of the time they're somewhere else. But keepers at home are totally different, because they're going to have to sit down sometimes and knit, flip through a book that they like, and they're going to have to, make a life for themselves. Their workplace is also where they live. This is a big adjustment if you don't know that. And so they're going to have to make it a place of comfort. And they're keepers at home, keepers in the home. So make an hour-by-hour job list if you possibly can, and if you run out of things to do in your home, I would give yourself a list of questions. And make a list of questions. Are all my cabinets cleaned? Are all my drawers in the kitchen cleaned? Are they, what about under the sink? What about the floor? Is the floor cleaned? I used to watch years ago there were women that lived in caravans. I think you call them, what do you call them here? Motorhomes, fifth wheels, trailers, whatever. And they were young, and they got married and stayed home in these tiny little caravans. But they had some videos back in the day when the web first started. They put out these videos of them a day at home with them in their little caravan, and they would even take old toothbrushes, and clean the cracks in the door and the windows and stuff, because they knew, and they would clean these houses, these little caravans, these little trailers, to perfection. And you could find them in the morning doing their dishes and sweeping and cleaning the porch, and they put a little plant by the porch and everything. And they knew that, after watching them for a while, I figured out what they were doing. After they got their first child, this little caravan was in such good shape because she had taken care of it, and they were all homemakers. Their husbands worked out on the highways or at the sawmills or fishing or anything like that, but their women stayed home, and they knew that they could resell this caravan or whatever you called it and move up to a better one. And pretty soon this is how they were doing it. And then the newlyweds would come and buy, or a young man would come and buy the old one where he could bring his bride home. And they loved those little places. And but they would move up, but they kept them so well and so well repaired and everything that they were able to sell them and move up until finally they would get into stick homes, or what we call them, stick homes. They're just homes that are built with wood or brick. And it's just so clever. And so be a good steward of what you have. Even if you don't think there's any hope, you still have to obey that. Just be a good steward no matter what. And so fight discouragement by being a good steward. So keepers at home, make some plans. So during the day, to encourage yourself, you might not find anyone to encourage you, but you're going to have to be the major encourager. Maybe one day you'll be an encouragement for someone else. You've got to practice it and become a teacher. And this is how you do it. You do it by learning and doing yourself. So during the day, read something aloud, even if it's just one sentence from the Bible or a poem or anything, and then sing a song aloud, any kind of a song that makes you happy, even a song of praise. Do some exercise and stretching. Stop and have refreshments. Clean up after yourself. Change your stuck thinking and make a job-by-job list, hour-by-hour list if you can. You won't always be able to follow it, but you can check some things off. And it's a way of practicing self-control and following it. And many of these things will keep you from irritability and even reduces feelings of inadequacy. And I guess everybody gets the feeling after all the hard work they've done all their lives, after all their education, it's all come to this. Remember that Mr. Bennett said to Mrs. Bennett, I tried, what was it? He said, I tried speaking to some of the young men and it all came to nothing. Yeah, that's one of my favorite phrases, is it's all come to nothing. And I used to like to say, you know, I was, in 1972, I went to Italy, and I was on a gondola listening to someone sing and going down the canal in Venice and noticing, they were telling, you know, where famous people used to live, and every time everything just gets overwhelming for me. I say, in 1972, I was on a gondola in Venice, Italy, and it's all come to this. And you can always find an example like that that's a lot of fun. It's kind of ironic. It's irony. And I want to keep talking, so if you find that this is too much for you, just pause it. You can just listen to 10 minutes at a time. So make some plans for yourself. Take an art class, and I'll never forget, it was just a free little art class on YouTube that I took, and the teacher wanted us to go and buy an orange. And it was during a time when I was alone a lot, because Mr. S had a job that took him away during these the evenings. And I so enjoyed going that morning to the grocery store and getting an orange, and then, or whatever it was the teacher told us to buy. It was just usually one thing from a grocery store. It could be a flower, it could be some kind of anything. And one time you had to make a sandwich, and she was going to show us how to paint it. But just those little things, just doing those little things was such a joy, because somebody was telling me what to do. So you're going to have to tell yourself what to do. Tell yourself things to do. And as much as possible, keep chemicals out of your life. I have even quit shampooing with, you know, the commercial shampoo, and I'll just show you sometime what I use. And there's a facial, I guess you would call it a mask, that I make, and I'll tell you about that. And that is these little things here. You can get them at the dollar store in a package of, I don't know, maybe there's 8 to 12 of them. And you take a teaspoon of, or just one of your spoons, you know, from your kitchen, a spoonful of honey, a spoonful of water, a spoonful of rice flour, and a larger spoonful of plain yogurt. You mix that all together, and when you get ready to bathe, you take you put it on your face, and you let it dry while you're in the bath or the shower. And then when you start to feel that it's drying, then you go ahead and wash it off. And this has really helped everything that is wrong with me. I've been doing it for quite a while now. And I substitute sometimes, instead of the rice flour, I will use beetroot flour, beetroot powder. And it's taken away my rosacea, sandy feeling skin that feels like reptile skin, and even eat some of it sometimes. And so I hope that this is helpful so far. So make things more beautiful in your home. That will be very helpful. It will cheer you up and make your home welcome you. You've been out, you've been to the library, you've been to the grocery store. You need to come home to a happy home and a feeling of happiness. So you determine the mood. You determine the whole life, how life will be at home, and you don't let other people's sour moods rub off on you, because people will start. It's really interesting. People will start saying things. Oh, you're going to clean the house today, are you? Oh, you're gonna. Oh, I see. You got some flowers, do you? And the way they say it is real sarcastic. Like it's so low, it's so beneath you, and you're not doing important things, and you can't let them discourage you, because some people just enjoy the gloom. They enjoy having that feeling of down, and they don't want you to do anything to improve the atmosphere. So you have to not let their discouragement rub off on you. Now you get ideas for your home from researching. You go through and you look at Pinterest, or you watch videos, or you find books that you can look at that will help you. Now I have a book that I wanted to tell you about. It's called Greater Health God's Way by Stormy Omartian, and she has a whole chapter on stress. And if you just read yourself one of the paragraphs or one of the numbers every day, and whether it helps you or not, you've read something. And then I have suggest craft books just to look at, not necessarily to do the things that are in there. I have this cottage cord. I've shown it to you before, and it goes by the season. Spring, summer, winter, fall. And of course I believe there are more seasons, but it gives you quite a few things to do each season. And you could just make up your own. You could make up your own list of things to do, but you don't have to do them, but you can look at it and you can read about it. And I have a lot of books that I like to look at, but I don't intend to do any of those, not everything in them, but I enjoy having them because it entertains me to look and see how someone did something, and how you might do something. And so there's no reason to think that your days will be empty. Now, I will summarize this. By saying, if you get absorbed in taking care of yourself, in your own self-improvement, you're improving yourself and learning different things, being a good steward and a good example, and learning to be a teacher, because whatever you experience in hard times or in reduced circumstances is going to be a teacher. That experience will be a teacher for you. And I'll remind you of a famous author, Beatrix Potter. And was she the one that wrote Peter Rabbit? Well, she began her writing career, and I cannot think of anything worse than this, because I live on farmland in the country, and we have the little field mice that come in sometimes. Scare me to death. I can't stand them. I mean, they're not really they're not filthy or anything. They're not rodents. But she noticed that the little mouse that would come in through the crack in the door, and she started to draw pictures of these mice and give them names. And that's how her writing career started. But look how she took something that was so gross and turned it into something absolutely delightful. And there are other people like Jane Austen. She said, I never go out. She'd get invitations, but she'd say, thank you for the invitation, but I never go out. She was apparently a minister's daughter, and she listened and observed the people that would come to see her father and sit in the front room or parlor, lounge room, whatever they had, and listen to their complaints or listen to their sad stories of life, and then she included them. She wove them into her novels. And so whenever I run into a problem, I'll say, well, that'll be a chapter in my novel. So I said to myself, when I saw that there was a lack of something that I wanted people to do something, or like in homeschooling, I just said, well, I'll learn, and then I will be able to tell you how to do it. And also, I think it's really important to have a continuing story. Now, you can take a piece of paper and you can fold it many times and clip it and make a tiny little book and write a story every day. And one of my stories that I've continued for several years that's fun for me is a lady named Mrs. Campbell that lived on this property before I came. Now, she didn't really, I've made her up. But when I don't feel like doing something, I think of her, and I think of the hardship she had, because she probably had to carry her water. I can turn hot and cold on. And I think about what she would be thinking as she brought the water up and brought it in, and you know, different things like that. And I'll write a little story about that. And I might even make her clean the kitchen and write about how she, you know, what her attitude was, and can have a continuing story. And another thing is, you can make a little, just by cutting squares of art paper and fastening it together somehow, and getting crayons or anything that's Eevee, colored pens, anything, and do a little art page every single day. Do it on purpose, not to be anything, not to publish anything, just to do it, because it's very good for you. So you do a little art page every day, whether you design a quilt square, whether you draw something that you like to have, whether you, and you can find places where you can learn to draw, but you don't really have to. You can just do your best with what you have. So when you're out, you can be a great influence, and you can improve the spirit of yourself and others, and feel a stronger purpose. Now at home, just start with something small. And also, I'd like to talk to you a little bit about when you end up in a place where you don't feel you're accepted or included, and you're kind of sidelined, and you won't be able to have any kind of social life or anything like that, is you just create a life for yourself at home with some of these ideas that I've given you today. And you can lift yourself up and lift others up through it. So to edify means to build up and to improve the mind, and you can do that. And so don't let apathy rub off on you. So the way you dress and the way you live at home can lift you up and make you think that you are living in a high-end area. And somebody discouraged me the other day, and he's one of the elderly farmers around here, and I had gotten a used car, and I was so proud of it because it worked. And it's a certain brand that he looked down on, and he said, I said, look, I've come up in the world. He said, not if you have that brand. Then we were commenting on one of the dogs or cats one of the neighbors had that had just kind of wandered in, and he said, you know what those dogs and cats are good for? And I said, don't tell me. He said, you're good to chase them away. And so he insulted the two things that I like. But we had a good laugh over it. And maybe he'll be a character in my novel. So fight discouragement, be durable, and show everybody else how to do it. You never know when someone else is going to start with in a situation that you're in, and you can tell them what to do and how to do it. So now I'm going to end by reading a poem here. This is by Walter D. Wintle, and I'm trying to think if he's the same one who wrote Hurry the Baby. I don't think so. Okay. This is called The Man Who Thinks He Can. If you think you are beaten, you are. If you think you dare not, you don't. If you'd like to win, but you think you can't, it's almost a cinch that you won't. If you think you'll lose, you're lost, for out in the world we find success begins with a fellow's will. It's all in the state of mind. If you think you're outclassed, you are. You've got to think high to rise. You've got to be sure of yourself before you can win the prize. Life's battles don't always go to the strongest or fastest man, but sooner or later the man who wins is the man who thinks he can. And now I will read another one here. It is try again. 'Tis a lesson you should heed, try again. If at first you don't succeed, try again. Then your courage should appear, for if you will persevere, you will conquer, never fear. Try again. Once or twice though you should fail, if you would at last prevail, try again. If we strive, 'tis no disgrace, though we did not win the race. What should you do in that case? Try again. If you find your task is hard, try again. Time will bring you your reward. Try again. All that other folk can do, why with patience should not you? Only keep this rule in view. Try again. Now let me see if I have one more saved up here for you. Okay, I've already read all the poems that I had saved up here for you. But I wanted to tell you about one more activity that I had when the children came. Was that I wanted to have a kind of a Olympics, you know, and whether it was skipping or jumping or running, I wanted to have Olympics. And so I have laurel growing outside, and I made some laurel things, you know, that you could hang over their head when they won. And so we had these little races, and we had somebody with a flag that waved. We made a flag out of a stick and a piece of paper, and we had them run the race. And we had an audience. You know, the parents and the others were, and the grandparents were audiences. And so we had these races, and then afterwards, the one that won got to stand on a taller block of wood, and the others. It was just like the Olympics. So much fun. And to the ones that were last, and I was one of the ones that were last, I was happy because I was running the race, and at least I was doing it. And that gives me closer to maybe getting second place next time, and then getting first place the next time. But at least I will be doing it. So, ladies, I didn't get to tell you everything that I wanted to, but I hope that this has been edifying. And I want to thank you all for encouraging me to keep coming here. I want to do it every day. I know it's good for me. And I just don't feel worthy of doing it if my house is a wreck. And I decided today I'd just leave it all and come here and worry about the house later. It'll still be there. So I will talk to you later. Thanks for all you do. If I owe you something like a letter or a package or something, it just takes me longer. So you can remind me by email. And I hope you'll leave a comment so I can see if this was beneficial at all. And there are so many books I wanted to show you about, but I will talk to you later. In the meantime, stay close to Christ. Bye.